So these photos that we're about to look at are from maybe about a week and a half ago. Me and Caroline went to go meet up with a good buddy of mine who also is a photographer. His name is Surreal. I'll leave his Instagram handle in the middle of the screen. Y'all should definitely go check out his work. He's super talented. Just to give some context, we were shooting at golden hour. Keep that in mind as we, go through these photos. And the way I see this video is just super laid back, super chill. Just gonna put some chill music on and edit some photos. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so these are the 3 photos that we're working with. This is my beautiful girlfriend, Caroline. Also got like a sunsetty type shot that we're going to edit as well. So let's start on the first one. Definitely want to go ahead and bump up the exposure so we can see her face. All right, so the first thing we want to do is check our white balance. I think it looks pretty good. One thing that I always try to do is to press J. What this does is it shows me what part of the image is being washed out. Keeping that on is going to help us in the future. This kind of stuff I like to mess with later, but we could go ahead and mess with a tone curve. If you click right here, the way this works is this is your blacks, this is your shadows, this is your midtones, this is your, I guess light, and this is your highlights. That's the way I see it. Like this is your darkest black and this is your whitest white. So let's go ahead and add some contrast to this just a hair. I always like to do a little S curve. Don't want to overdo it though. And we're gonna go ahead and press J. One thing you can do to take away this red stuff right here is to just click on this top part of the graph and just slightly drag it down. What we could do is go ahead and start messing with these midtones, shadows, and highlights. For the midtones, these are typically your skin tones. So let's go ahead and give her a little bit of red. Now, one thing I've always noticed is I feel like when I go a little green in the shadows, that typically just gives like a whole different vibe, right? You see the difference? I don't know. Maybe that's just personal preference, but I like giving the shadows a little green. Gives it that super vibey look, And then highlights, probably want to go like an orangish look. That might be doing too much. When you're messing with the color grading, you really don't want to overdo it. Less is always more. That is a fact. Let's go ahead and fix these right here. You always want to check those. See, look, I should have done that first. First mistake already, Ashton. Let's go ahead and add a little vignette. Add about 50. Notice the difference here. Caroline hates when I add grain to her face. So what we can do is go ahead and soften that up a little bit. I would always suggest softening the face a little bit, but don't overdo this either, because then you'll end up like half the girls on Instagram. I'm feeling like her face is not popping as much as I want it to. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and mess with this down here. Give it a little bit of pinkish tint in the shadows. Now I'm gonna go ahead and mess with these hues over here. You can click on this or press Command Alt Shift and then H. Bruh. You can go ahead and click over here and drag up and down, change those greens. You see how it's affecting that? I think we want to stay with like those warm colors, it's very filmic. Maybe bring down those greens just a little bit so she stands out just a little bit more. Now I'm probably gonna come back to that, but these highlights are killing me. There we go. There we go. I think that's the first step with, well, not first step, but one of the main steps with these filmic photos is bring them highlights down. Actually bring that quite a bit down. There we go. Add some contrast. See, bring those whites down as well. But right now I'm wanting to keep a naturally green warm tone instead of having some pink in there like this. It's just, it's making our skin tones look a little weird, but that's looking pretty good in my opinion. Add some more vignette. Once I've got like a pretty decent grade, then I'll start messing with these down here, because these, you tend to always get some really cool effects, but I always try to save this for last. I always mess with the hues first and then the saturation. See, I don't want to mess with the reds actually. We'll see how we're getting even warmer over here. I kind of like that actually. Take a little bit more of that pinkish fade out of there. And then blue hue is gonna of course affect all this. If you're trying to go Sam Colder on them, then just slide this bad boy to the left, but we're not going Sam Colder. And to be honest, I don't think I'm gonna mess too much with these. Let's see if we want to make this green into like a more kind of like that. I ain't mad at that. Don't know if I want to do it that much, Actually, yeah, let's bring that back up. See, you're always going back and forth and then realizing that you shouldn't have done what you did 5 minutes ago. I like to desaturate the greens a bit. Ooh, look at that. The greens and the yellows. See, we're really trying to actually desaturate the yellows. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Ooh, look at it, we getting somewhere. Bring up the vibrance a little bit. Turn down saturation just a hair. Maybe just like -5. And honestly, guys, I feel like I'm pretty happy with that. Here is before and here is after. All right, moving on to the next one. All right, so this is a little bit different. The sun is still backlighting her, but we're not shooting straight at the sun. All right, let's go ahead and bump up exposure, and then we're gonna mess with the tone curve. We're gonna click J. Go ahead and add some natural contrast. Yeah, there we go. And then remember to get rid of those high highlights, or your whites, whatever you want to call them. Bring this down just a hair. Boom. Oh, let's make sure we do this again. I forget to do those basic stuff sometimes because typically I'm just going with my presets, which, by the way, if you want to check those out, they're in the description. Make sure to grab some if you're interested. All right, so like I said earlier, midtones, give it a little bit of red. Shadows, a little green, just a hair, not too much. And then highlights, kind of give it some warmth. Add some vibrance to her skin. Okay, I think we could brighten this up quite a bit, actually. Yeah, there we go. Now we're gonna adjust the hues. I'm not a super fan of like yellowy greens like this, so I'm going to switch to the saturation tab. And one thing you can do, same thing over here, instead of pressing Command Alt Shift and H for hue, if you want to do saturation, you just do the same thing, Command Alt Shift but S. Bruh. Let's go ahead and bring those greens down a little bit. God, it looks so much better. And we probably want to bring the tint over to the green side a little bit. Also like to bring the clarity down a little bit. Max 10. Go ahead and brighten it up quite a little bit more. Add some green. Soften up her face just a hair. Notice how you can like barely tell that anything is happening. Small changes. Go ahead and bring those highlights down. Typically every time you do that, you're gonna have to bring your exposure back up. I'm not afraid to bring up the highlights just a little bit too, but definitely ain't going past like -50. All right, bring the shadows down. Nope, the blacks actually look good, so I don't think I want to mess with that. Probably bring up the shadows just a hair, and then bring the exposure down. See how my exposure is at 1.4-ish? I don't want to go much higher than that, because then it just kind of tend to lose the quality. So however else we can do it, let's do that. Bring that orange out in her. We're getting somewhere now, boys and girls. Now I think we can go ahead and mess with these down here. Notice how her skin tones are getting redder as I go left. And she turns into a whole different person. Go to the right and she's gonna get more orangey. Green, let's mess with those. Faux show. I actually kind of like it that way. And then the blues. Ooh. Do we like that? Sometimes when I'm messing with colors and stuff like this, my eye doesn't know that I'm going too far sometimes. Like even right now, going from 0 to -15. Whenever I do make changes like that, make half the adjustment. Whatever adjustment you're trying to make, do half of it. So if I was doing -15 and I thought that looked good at first, well, I'm probably gonna look at it later and think, ooh, that was a little over edited. A general rule of thumb that I like to keep in mind is whatever I'm trying to do, just do it half. And if you really want to do more of it later, your eye will catch it, or at least hopefully, but take the safe route and just do it in half. Maybe add a little more green into the shadows, just a hair. Yeah, that looks good. It's actually lower the contrast just a bit. And also another thing you can do with portraits when you're doing stuff like this is add a radial blur. This is a radial blur right here, and basically the way it works is you click and drag, and it's going to affect everything around the circle, or invert it and it'll affect everything within the circle. Typically I just like to darken it just like by -0.2 or so. So this is without it, and this is with it. It draws a little more attention to her. All right, I think that one looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So you're probably looking at this like, bro, I can't see shit. But I shot this with the intent to focus my exposure on the sky rather than this little hill right here. First thing we're gonna do is we're going to bump this exposure up. If you press J, it'll show everything within the highlights like that, or it'll show everything in the darks that are crushed. See, like all that, that means that there's no detail there. We're gonna keep that in mind and try to pull it up just a hair right there. Oh, I totally forgot about this. What I need to add to these photos is a little bit of fade. It ain't vibey without no fade, it ain't. So we're gonna add a little bit of fade, just a little bit. Don't want to overdo this either. I suggest anything between like you see right here, it says 12. Anything between 5 and 15 I think looks good. Anything above that is just kind of like overdoing it for sure. Yeah, see, doesn't it just look moodier? I'm always like making adjustments and undoing, making adjustments and then undoing to double check to see if I like it. On this photo, I just realized this. I shot this shit crooked. You can press this angle button and click and drag. And I'm just trying to match against that line right there. Pretty good. So tone curve, bring up the fade a bit. I'm gonna go ahead and bring the highlights down. When you're shooting against the sky, if you bring down those highlights, you're gonna conserve a little more detail and get some more colors out of it. Bring that up. See, I'm at 2.0. I need to kind of come down. I'm overdoing it. Bring up those shadows quite a bit. I just want to be able to see what I'm working with here. Now let's come to the color grading. Add a little bit green to the shadows. So how do I want that sky to look? What grade? Maybe like a bluish tint. And then the highlights, keep it warm. I'm trying to stay with natural colors here. Look at me forgetting to do this again. Make sure you do this first step every time. Lens corrections, just correct them bad boys. Of course, you gotta add the grain. All right, we're getting somewhere. Let's mess with the overall tint here. This shit right here is looking a little too green for me. Messing with the hues now. I think I might have done too green over here. Let's try a different color. If you're trying to just keep it at the same percentage effect, you can just click on the outside and drag around. Feeling like that green is just too much for the shadows. Let's actually make it a little warmer. Yeah, let's try that. Bring up the exposure. Bring up the whites. That way we can bring down the overall exposure. I'm liking that. Messing with the reds. I'm gonna pull some more color out of the sky because it's just seeming like a little boring. So Command Alt Shift S and then click and drag to pull some more color out of there. I think I actually want to mess with the white balance here. We're actually gonna bring this up quite a bit. Getting some more detail in that sky. It's looking a little flat. Yeah, there we go. Bring out the blacks just a hair. Remember, low contrast vibes is the way to go for that film look. This is kind of a tough photo to edit, but we're gonna make the most of it. Oh, I like that. Okay, instead of having like orange highlights, we're gonna bring a little more to the green side. Bring it up just a hair more. Let's bring those shadows up a little bit more too. And then lower that. Yeah. Okay, and there's before, there's after. Okay, let's go ahead and look at before and after for each photo. Here's before. Here's after, here's before, here's after, here's before, and here's after. All right, and that pretty much wraps it up. This was kind of tough for me because I was trying not to get too involved with it. Just trying to stay on the surface level a little bit. I would definitely love to dive deeper into, editing this kind of stuff in the future. But for now, this is my first time doing something like this, so hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know if you like the photos that I chose of Caroline and the sunset. Did you like those photos? Were they fun to watch me edit? Was it annoying? Did you wish I would have chosen something else? Let me know. I would love to hear some feedback. If you're interested in the way that I edit my photos, I do have a preset pack that could help you edit your photos to have that filmic look. So head it over to the description if you want to see that. Oh, also, forgot to mention, if you want to go show some love on Instagram, I just posted these photos. Follow me at Ashton T. Joe and show some love. And thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.